Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Developer Insights. In this episode, I'm joined by James Simon of Ernst & Young. I've known James for a couple of years now, and he's a big supporter and proponent of the People Not Tech dashboard. And like us, he sees the need to understand psychological safety and the need to pay down the human and tech debt together. James's recent career choices in the connected vehicle space have seen tenure at Stellantis, AWS, and now Ernst & Young, leading teams to unlock developer performance. I hope you enjoy the conversation as much as I do. Hello everyone, and welcome to Developer Insights, and welcome on James.
Yeah,
Good. Okay, so I think looking through your profile on LinkedIn, the thing that really jumps out to me most is you have been in inverted commas working in a sexy space, which I think a lot of developers would be working into, the whole sort of like EV connected vehicle space. I just wondered if you could just talk through your experiences of that over the past few years, and how your experiences with that, and how the software development path may or may not have been any different, and what it's actually like working for Amazon AWS from the inside out. And if
yeah,
you could share your experiences on that, it would be amazing.
absolutely. But it is a really interesting space, automotive in general. Um, it, like as I've been working on EVs, I started my first EV project was 2016 with the hybrid vehicle. As scientist, I was a system engineer. I own several features for that. Um, and the interesting thing that made me different to a lot of places that developers were working outside of automotive is that you were tied really tightly, and the further back you go, the more this Puritan's vehicle timelines. And when I first started working at Slice, anything you needed out of the vehicle, you were like at an 18-month timeline at the minimum, right? Sometimes as much as 3 to 5 years. And any changes driven into that after the maybe 2 year mark out in the vehicle development, very, very challenging. So you have to be very conscious of your constraints and your dependencies. Well, now, once you move into the cloud, um, the truth is that you're quite free. I was just listening to a podcast this morning I'll tell you about in a minute. But when I was working at Slant, we started looking at the ways we could improve development because the mindset was still awkward. We were doing long development cycles with virtually no testing, right?
Yeah,
Until you get to
the best sort of development
integration.
cycles.
Yeah. So they would do integration testing basically at the end of the year. And then a lot of it was sort of vendor driven. There's
Mhm.
very little development accounts. And they wound up turning around and doing the testing at the end and finding all these defects, right? So and then once you find those defects now that all that has to go back into development and be fixed, and
Yep.
your defect curve goes like this, right? Then right up until like what they would call child one, which is the start of production, and then suddenly it drops. All
Yeah.
right. And this is largely a matter of reclassifying bugs. Now that might happen a lot in a shorter time frame in other places, but in automotive it really is tied to this idea that everything has to be functioning safe. There's like a lot of concerns that caused it to be developed that way. What's happened since I started, then like towards the end of my work at Stellantis, when we started doing more work in house, we started understanding better, and we started applying really more lean principles than agile.
Mhm.
Uh, because the things got better. We got to a place where at least some teams could develop in a continuous iteration and continuous delivery way, right?
Right.
We stood up the dojos, that's the way it worked in, right? And then I went to AWS, and what's happened in the industry since then is this movement towards software-defined vehicles, and the ability to make, without cross compiling, bit same code in the cloud
Mhm.
continuously run like a on-loop DevOps on it, right? So as
Yeah.
you're developing an ECU or a telematics model or entertainment app, you can be testing those in integrated virtual environment. And that's freeing our customers now in the automotive world and their developers from a lot of the constraints they do. So it really is a very happy thing to have happen. And then this podcast I was listening to what Charlotte Cross is now the but he was a senior manager. Now he's the chief module engineer for Connected. And he was just talking about how you can shift a lot of the brains of the vehicle into the cloud.
Uh-huh.
That Stellantis is making a lot of decisions and small instructions at a micro level that they're sending down to the vehicle. They can do it daily. Right? So if you're able to treat the vehicle just like another the component or database that you're sending instructions to,
Yeah.
now you've got this
I mean,
magical ability.
obviously, there we're not talking about actually driving the car through traffic.
No, but like creating features for people right on the fly. And he gave a really great example. Charlie was running one of those small teams, maybe 8 or 10 people that were really capable and were free from a lot of the constraints of process. When he left his windows down on his truck, and it rang.
Yeah.
So he said, "Guys, I'm forgetful. I'm going to do this again. I want you to help me stop it from happening." So they in a matter of weeks, right, made this feature that takes the information out of your car and the status of things like your windows, and then reaches out to various sources like weather. And if it says that there's rain coming and your windows are down, it'll send you a reminder that you should roll up your windows, right?
Perfect to do a reminder. Obviously, you
Yeah.
don't want these actions happening all by themselves because dogs
Exactly.
bite
So you get into the exciting places. You're a developer that maybe came from fintech or through a web retail or something. You get into the same space now where you weren't there before, right? It's not possible to have the car wake up every day and say, "What do you want me to do?"
Yeah,
Right?
I suppose
That
from
was cool.
a developer point of view, it feels like you're making a very tangible thing. I want to say, something you can touch and feel, and you can actually see, your actions working in a say physical world rather than just being a report writer.
Yeah.
And you've got the right number and you've done your job well. I'm not putting anyone down, but it's always felt to me that we're not creating, tangible things we can touch and feel sometimes.
And when the distance between you and the customer's experience is really far, then it feels very abstract as a technologist, right?
Yeah.
As a builder or developer. So this is kind of my whole mission in life, right? And I think if you can enable developers to get things in the hand of customers right away, that's a happier experience, right? For the customer and for the developer. And the focus on developer experience started when I was at Scientist. And some of them in some places have continued that. And it's really amazing to see what they've been able to accomplish just by doing that, just by saying, how can I give my developers the ability to deliver something, today instead of 9 months from now, right?
Absolutely, and obviously taking that Stellantis experience all the way through to, the AWS experience as well. Again, from the outside, perhaps not from the inside, where you're obsessed on customers. That's got to stand you in good stead.
Now, I think as far as AWS from the inside, it is a lot more challenging than people expect outside of the service teams. Right, service teams are very special, and they're I think a little less constrained. But for solution development, it was actually a longer process than I expected, and very much one that has a lot of the sort of they do all the automation, but then they have a lot of manual checks, documents, and making sure the documents are right and code reviews right. That surprised me because you do have the continuous integration environment, right? And you do write tests, and you automate those tests. There's SAS, DAS, all the sort of inspection stuff you do expect. But it's all like they just haven't started trusting it so much yet. But actually, they still have a lot of these manual things, so it takes a long time, I think, to get the solution.
Build that trust into actually the automated tests are actually there and are actually working.
We should probably speak like I was from a business unit on the solution side, and until I started building something on the team, I didn't have visibility into that. But I was a little surprised by it then. And it's honestly, you can see that it's developers don't love having writing something on Monday, submitting it the week after on Friday, and then waiting until someone can put eyes on it, to be able to do it.
Yeah, I mean that's always the the context switch back, isn't it? Of
Yeah.
okay, there's a bug in here. What did I do 2 weeks ago anyway?
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. So it is very interesting to me, but at the same time, we were focused on actually trying to bring to automotive a developer experience portal, right?
Mm-hmm.
And with that, the what I envisioned was the ability to lay down executable governance, right, from outside of the team, maybe an enterprise level,
Okay.
but then having at the team's fingertips all of the sort of golden paths and even products that they can pick up, deploy into maybe a devastating environment, test
Yep.
it out, see if it does what they want, right? And sort of pushing those decisions down on the team level at automotive where they really aren't today. If you talk to any consultancy like what I'm with now, or even my business unit back at AWS, they're trying to talk to the C level, right? And that's great, but once the decision's been made that we're an Azure shop or Kubernetes shop or an AWS shop, then individual decisions of what to use from a framework or technology stack perspective within that should really be at the developer.
Oh, for sure, for sure, for sure.
And so it's very hard to envision a company that can be really successful and really agile, possible marketplace and build decisions at a lower level. So we wanted to bring that to automotive. We designed, of course, a platform, right, for connected, but then we designed this developer experience platform that's literally, and we made paths to be able to contribute into that. And now I'm, kind of doing the same thing. UI officially, my job is product architect for the Nexus infection vertical, and I have a partner in that, and of course the guy that brought us in. And the whole idea there is to accelerate our right now. Let's accelerate our engagements, right? Because we have a large business and tech consultants, right? But I'm always keeping an eye on how is this helping developers deliver stuff like today. And even when I talk to clients, I ask them to ask themselves is just one question, right? Never mind all the frameworks, but the question is why can't we deliver today's work today? And if you ask that question in a large room of people at any company, plenty of people will be willing to give you the answers.
There's a lot of business prevention departments all the way through the stack. And
yeah. But if you take those as challenges and problems at a technical or organizational level to solve, then now you're on the path, right?
Yeah.
And you're getting to a place where you can sort of become a high-performing team. There will be more obstacles probably to try to do that. The psychological state team took all time to form.
Yeah, I mean, it does make me think if, a truly autonomous team can even exist in anything other than the smallest of shops, the smallest of startups. Because once you actually, come in from the fintech background, where there's just, especially so much regulation, and any other, I'm sure the automotive industry has got its own sorts of regulations all the way through. Can a team be truly autonomous to get stuff out to production environment? Is that
only through two things. Main career design, like I know you know about reverse tunneling, right? If you can make those teams as part of small startups away, right? And if your enterprise work is there to make executable policies that can be put into things like your pipelines, your developer experience portal, right? The configuration of the cloud, then you can have what truly have something you're promised in a little box, right? That you created for them.
Yeah.
And it should be wide enough that they can innovate. But it has to be, small enough that you're not running up $1 million bills, you're meeting regulatory requirements, right? But once it is inspectable, it's not simple, it's not really available, you can't just go buy a thing that does it. But if you take the time to invest in platforming and platform teams that are able to translate your regulatory and code requirements into executable governance, then I think you can. I think the thing is it's hard. And it's really hard to make that investment in a significant way for companies. But every company that I know that has done it has reaped the benefits, even if they've only done it in a small space, like the team that I was telling you about from Stellantis, right? So that's just Turley now has a wider remit, but for years he only had one team. All of the work that he talked about in his podcast today it is which is a Stellantis podcast other called Tech AI. The one we're really talking about really happened before the big shift in 2019. He just set up a team, right? And he just said, go make things, right? And I think that's really the best way to get started. And once the values demonstrated, right? Like he's now trying to this walk. Like he demonstrated this he can very rapidly with this team developing. So I think there's also room for. I was just thinking about this with my current client. There's room for that sort of traditional IT, right? In the stuff that keeps the lights on. Like
Yeah.
You sort of really deep back office, the payment system, and cafeteria, the great weapons. There's room for that traditional project-based IT. We talked about just before the podcast over migration and modernization. Those things can be projects. Like the projects can be run in a safe or waterfall or some very rigorous way, right? I think products that are emergent, in particular, I've never done this thing before with these people, right? In this way, that kind of stuff really needs to be almost free of frameworks, in a way, right? Like just do the thing, right? But it requires a lot of discipline. And that's as you talk to a lot of people, I'm really curious what you're hearing about developers out there for that, because it's one of the things actually that I encountered that's I struggle with the most is that I'll get people that are senior devs, they're really opposed to some of the disciplines.
Mm-hmm.
And it's counterintuitive to me, other than just this way I've always done it, right? But like, that's trim development, taking time for company design, working directly with the business, all of these things, I think I do encounter some resistance to it. Almost quite.
Yeah, I think as you move from shop to shop to shop, and let's go out there and state that I don't think anyone's got any bad intentions. Everyone's trying their best and getting along in the world the best they can, and got their own personal troubles, etc., etc., etc. But yeah, I do tend to agree that there's no one has a true image of seeing it done right. I think everyone talks about how do we do this right, and I've never actually met anyone, and I think maybe it just comes with experience on the trough of disillusionment with the curve of expectation. But once you get more knowledge, then you know what you don't know more. And every time you move from a different company to a different company, and it's always, we've always done it this way. And you can't break out of that until someone new comes in and effectively starts breaking a few eggs.
Yeah.
You're trying to break and smash the system in some way, shape, or form that this isn't the best way to do things. Is there even a best way? But at least you got to make those small pieces of functionality, be it testing, integration testing, black box testing, unit testing, development, call it what you will, a small enough subsection of code, product that you can swap it in and out with something which may or may not be better. And then at least you're able to get those integrations done, and you're swapping a slight different bit of this process for the next one, for the next one, for the next one. And to me, that's really the key. Being able to take these things down to the smallest possible level that can be moved out.
And that has to happen on the team, which is I think team structure is another one I struggle with as we design outcomes, design what they should look like. I just had a discussion yesterday with a colleague who was surprised to hear me say that the test function, right, our test skill set needs to be on the team, right? Like shouldn't. It's like, well, you should let developers focus on making stuff. I'm like, but like quality is a part of the stuff, right? It is the work. And so it has to exist on the team and in Marshwork so they can do things like you just said, like maybe this type of testing is not effective, I need to try a different type, right? Like so it's about more than just defining some test criteria. It's really about testing out, learning what's most effective for this particular thing in terms of tests, right? They don't have APIs, don't necessarily contract tests, right? Almost always need unit tests, but do I also need you know, UAT tests on this particular thing, right?
Yeah.
To be written,
There's no such thing as a bad test, but and you can only have any in my book. Pretty much any testing is good testing, especially when it's automated. And I think we're speaking off air earlier before we got on here. And, I think one of our big gripes together is probably sort of like manual testing and how that it should just be exploratory only. I'm all for manual testing in an exploratory sense in terms of pretend you haven't seen this before and base it, please. Not just follow your test script. If you're following the test script, then that should be, to my mind, something which is automatable.
Exactly. Yeah, it can be scripted, it should be automated. And I think in the automotive space, the only exception I would make to that is you kind of need a combination of scripted and exploratory when you hit it. Right? Weird things happen on fair view, especially with the legacy automotive architecture, where you got all these ECUs widely distributed across the network in the vehicle, and then not consolidated. So you do want to have a run through some basic scripts in the vehicle, and then you want to just let them mash, right? Like you should do weird things with it that just a normal human being would do, and see if the design still works right. But that's really special, and the sort of main point with SMB though is most of those tests should have already been executed way back in the cloud, and then again in your hill environment, which is a sort of hyper-virtualized vehicle on some very specific hardware from companies like T-Space, in combination with real physical ECUs, right? Mm-hmm. And then you want your final validation of the vehicle. And the goal that I've discussed with customers and colleagues is when you get to that point, ideally you're no longer finding any actual bugs, right? Like no errors in the code.
Yeah.
What you may find is just misunderstandings or design errors that you maybe don't even do anything about unless they're incredibly egregious.
Well,
that's for the next update, right, or the next platform.
Well, that's again always something. What do we fix and when do we fix it? And do we care enough to be able to fix it? And does the cost of fixing it outweigh the good of fixing it can do? Like, we have a lot of discussions on, tech debt, and we say, right, if we put something into, say, a SQL Server database, is that necessarily tech debt? Well, everything's tech debt, but at what point? No, as soon as you press deploy, it's tech debt to my mind. Right. It's always going to be preceded. And at what point does it become enough tech debt that you have to do something about it? And it's obviously just, how much?
How long do you make that period, right? So the 2 points of law that words, they're very interesting. One of the ways we try to nuance tech debt or really capture and understand it is something called FMEA. There's a failure mode error analysis or effect analysis. And in that, you imagine all the things that can go wrong based on very detailed sequence diagrams. Yep. So at every level of your UML diagram, you say what can go wrong there. And then you sort of have this mathematical matrix of how frequently can it go wrong and how severe is it. And you multiply the two. If it's not above a certain number, you don't bother fixing it.
Right? It's Fight Club, isn't it? Where the narrator applies the formula. If the output settlement multiplied by the amount of cases is less than the cost of recall, we don't get the recall.
Well, yeah. And then the other interesting word about automotive and tech debt is I set a goal when I was working on the connected mobility solution at AWS to make that system be evolvable, right, and sustainable for 5 years. Because of a shocking number of automotive companies basically completely burn down and rebuild their connected platform every 2 years.
Wow.
So, and it's a lengthy process to build on. So you are sometimes just deploying or getting ready to deploy System A while you're already working on System B, because in 2 years you're going to sunset System A and use. It's really nuts. And
Yeah, and I guess I
a lot of
did thought
people
about
are,
it. I mean, as a consumer, when you get into a 3-year-old car or something, you're really starting to miss those new advances which those
yeah,
latest cars have got.
yeah,
And,
definitely.
and you
But
just
you
thinking,
shouldn't have to,
what's the upgrade procedure for the car?
right. You should have to
Even
rebuild your
in,
whole
in
platform though to do that, right?
yeah,
But
yeah,
it's a lot of work to rebuild this platform. So I wanted to make something that could handle its lower technical debt for up to 5 years. And that's basically what happened, friends. Over that 2 year period, because of the way things are done, the sort of lack of discipline, frankly, that people think they do safe and kept really agile. You wind up building up so much technical debt that I mean, effectively, all you have to declare waivers.
mm,
Because you can't possibly pay that down or fix it on that platform. So you do know. And it's just got a new routine, right? Like you just, okay, well, we're going to have to do a new platform every 2 years because we're going to have so much tech that in the second year.
yeah.
And that's, that's not the way to be.
No,
Like,
no,
you
no.
gotta,
Continual firefighting is just sapping to the people involved as well.
yeah, absolutely. And the crisis work is crushing. And I've been blessed to not have to deal with that for a long time. We kind of got our ducks when I was at scientists. When just at AWS, we didn't have a lot of fires. Occasionally, if we had to like get into a crisis mode, you saw them right back up into this, and it generally wasn't anything that would require months and months of looking research. There was a misconfiguration somewhere, right, that caused a
Yeah,
so it. But I've been blessed with not having to live in those like war room situations for quite a long time, and I think a lot of the automakers also that would be like our customers, right, are in a new place where they're still doing a lot of the upfront planning and everything, but they're doing it now kind of well enough, right? That they're also avoiding this used to be an emergency rush every time we're releasing a new vehicle, right, or a new platform. The last 3 months was like nightmare fuel, right?
oh
And
yes,
then the first couple months after. And by the time I exited science, it wasn't that way. And I've watched now, in the couple of years I was at AWS, all these automakers have transformed away, mostly away from that, right? Their new platforms, their new vehicles, their new ways of working, are all much better. And they're not living that sort of layer right at J1, right? So, I mean, I spent a lot of time in China living that nightmare for a vehicle launching for the last time as a scientist, where something was that tense and difficult when I was there. Uh, and it really did a lot for me in terms of learning and for my career. But it super sucked,
yeah,
right? Like it was, the nervousness that they may not be able to ship this vehicle that they want was
yeah.
really
It's
typical. And there's a lot of wealth to that.
yep, yep. You're all in
So
by that
it's
point. Yeah.
hard.
So that's all the tech debt, but what about human debt, psychological safety, and quantifying, measuring how people are working?
It's funny, James. This is the hardest part. The hardest part that I still I spell every day for the rest of my life, but I feel like I've taken 10 steps backwards. I really don't have people that are either they're not interested in measuring it at all and dealing with it. They think they already are, but it's in
Yeah,
ways that are we'll say very surface, right? And not truly actionable, right? Like
yeah,
very very interestingly, somebody did a little measuring this, and they think that to be accurate, you got to measure infrequently, right?
yeah,
And this information that you provide is going to someone, and it circles back around to and costs financially sometimes, and for the job street will cost your manager, right?
yeah.
And it's I don't think that's the right answer. right? And it does weed out really truly terrible managers because they get fired. But if you're just not as effective as you could be, right? That keeping your team feeling good and happy, or if you can't be any more effective because of the system, then why should you get penalized for that, right? The human debt thing is, I can't say it enough. It's just absolutely real, and I don't want to work in misery. But I even see results now in some of my developer communities where it's sad because they think, well, no matter what busy company doesn't care about us, and that's probably true. I'm just here to collect a paycheck and all that, right? And I get paid the same, whether or not. But I think is there's a lack of empathy in that for everyone around, right?
Yeah.
And that's where I come from, right? For me, I'm up in the rear quite here now, right? Like I'm fine, but I know that at the level of our developers and our customers developers and even their immediate manager, right? The human that is demotivating is difficult. It makes it harder to do the job, uninspired, right? It's that for me, working in that JoJo level teaming, where it was 100% direct collaboration and communication, was it's magical, right? I really, if I was to be building something directly, I knew I would.
Yeah.
Because the feeling of safety and camaraderie and inspiration, right? And just knowing that if you didn't have the answers somebody else did, and the accomplishment together, outstanding. I really like all credit to Willie and the people that taught me, right? The phone code and all that. It's the best way of working, and it reduces that human debt. But I've seen no investment anywhere that I go now in this,
Yeah.
and it's heartbreaking for me. It's very difficult to just watch, right?
Yeah. I was just about to say on that very positive note, but I think it turned it around to no one sorting it out anyway, right at the very last moment. But James, I know you've got a hard stop in literally about 2 minutes, I think. It's been a really interesting conversation. Thank you very much. And hopefully we'll talk about this again soon.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Dave.
And thanks for everyone for listening. Thanks again, James. Bye.
Bye.